Hey guys, hope you're having an amazing day today. My name is Steve. Thank you so much for stopping by my channel. Today I'm going to be reacting to the Great British Pub Culture Explained. In the US, we just don't have the same level of pub culture that you guys seem to have in the UK and Ireland. I've seen a couple of pubs in my life, but in the areas I've lived in, pubs just really weren't much of a thing. You know, in my hometown, I have I don't know, I'm guessing we have 10 or 15 bars maybe, which we have a really small population. So it's quite a few bars for the population, but we have one place that's called a pub. And when I started this journey, when I would see the term pub, I just assumed it was pretty much the same thing as a bar. But I learned from comments and whatnot that pubs tend to be a little bit different than bars in the UK and Ireland for the most part. I'm under the impression that some of the main differences between a pub and a bar is the fact that pubs seem to be a little bit more family friendly, if you will. There's going to, you're probably going to be able to get a good bite to eat at a pub, for example. You might see some kids there when at a bar you usually won't see any kids, obviously. And it seems to be, pubs seem to be in the UK and Ireland. I believe they tend to be like kind of community meeting spots in a way. It's a place where the community comes together and just enjoys each other's company. That's the impression I'm getting from what happens with a UK and Irish pub. Like I said, in the US, that is different. Obviously, people go out and meet their friends and whatnot at bars, but I'm under the impression that a bar and a pub are different in a lot of ways. I still have a long way to go to understand this topic because, like I said, I really never explored this topic fully. And so that's why I'm checking out today's video, the Great British Pub Culture Explained. And so I really don't think we have a pub culture in the US, really, at least not in the areas I've lived in. But I know you definitely have a big pub culture in the UK and Ireland. And so this is definitely a topic I need to explore to understand the British culture a little bit more. And so, yeah, guys, so that's what we're going to do today. We're going to be learning about your British pub culture. So
one of the great things about England is pubs.
My whole love of journalism and debating came from just observing people in the pub.
The Great British Pub has been the backdrop for debate, conflict, and even love. A place open for all, from geezers to hipsters to ladies' nights out.
You all mix together as one, and that's how it should be.
It is the backbone of British culture.
Go to the Winchester, have a nice cold pint, and wait for all this to blow over.
So today we're going to explore this fascinating culture. We're going to go through its history, its controversies, and whether it's going to survive in the future. This is the story of the Great British Pub.
what does he mean by whether British pubs will survive into the future? I mean, if pubs are so ingrained in British culture, where would they go? I really don't understand what he's getting at with that question, but I guess he'll touch on that in a bit.
The British have a famous reserve when it comes to being sociable. And everything about the pub is micro-engineered to break down those social barriers and to enable people to talk to each other.
Oh, that makes a lot of sense.
With its origins dating as far back.
Hold up. I think I get what he's saying there. I have learned on this journey that for the most part, British people do tend to be a little bit more reserved in public settings than, say, people in the US tend to be. You know, I think it's well known that people in the US do tend to be a little bit more louder in public settings and whatnot, and they're definitely more likely to be talking to strangers and things like that, at least from what I picked up, on certain videos throughout this journey. And for example, one of those videos that popped in my head was one where some guy was trying to talk with people on the London Underground, and no one would speak to him at all. And so it makes sense that putting people that might be a little bit more reserved in public settings into a cozy setting where everybody's drinking, everybody's kind of let loose a little bit all together under this one roof in relatively tight quarters, and it's just really cozy. I could see how that could definitely help people start talking to each other more and loosen up a bit and whatnot. I think that might be what he's getting at there.
back as 43 AD to 410 AD, and it came
Wow.
from the Romans as they occupied Britain. However, pubs as we know them today would really become popular in the Victorian era. They were communal meeting points that typically the working class could go to and enjoy themselves. Pubs fall into a few different categories, and they have changed a lot over the years, but let's start with 3 basic ones.
Traditional
Firstly, you
pub.
have the traditional pub. These are often housed in like historic British buildings. Typically, there'll be laws and regulations over how you can change the building's exterior as a way to preserve the culture. So this means there's very low ceilings and very low
man.
doorways, because apparently people were smaller back then.
Dude,
A lot of
those
the
are so
interior is
short.
made out of wood. There's wooden beams everywhere. There's usually an open fireplace.
Oh, wow.
It's designed to feel like a nice, homely, cozy living room. When it comes to drinks, they'll serve a range of beers, ales, ciders, and they might even offer traditional pub food, which we would call pub grub. Now let's
Pub
move
grub.
on to the next pub, and that is the country pub.
And every country village needs a country pub.
Now, as the name suggests, a country pub is far out in the sticks, way away from what they would refer to
Oh,
as
wow.
city folk. Why this is different?
Okay, I can see right off the bat that the country pub is definitely going to be a great way to kind of pick up on the local culture and learn about the local area, because you're more likely to have less tourists there, I'm guessing. And so you're more likely to just be able to converse with the locals, easier in a way.
From a
what I'm
traditional
guessing.
pub is that traditional pubs can exist in very urban areas. The atmosphere of a traditional pub relies on its surrounding area. It might be a bit more fun, a bit more lively, and there might be, God forbid, young people in there. Whereas the country pub is quite the opposite. The country pub is more quiet, more cozy, more chill. It caters to the locals who
Yeah,
look
okay.
at outsiders
That makes
with
sense.
a little bit of scorn. The locals have typically lived in that town for generations and generations.
And then we got their children's children and their grandchildren. And they still recognise and still know you. So good night, Miss Page. Good night, Sam. Good night, John. Good night, Teddy.
And then lastly,
Wait, so if I was visiting and I went out into a country pub out in the middle of nowhere, and it's going to be basically all locals there, would they literally look at me in scorn because I'm just passing through, I'm visiting, or is he kind of overplaying the word scorn there in a way? Like, I mean, I'm guessing they understand that I'm just visiting, right? And I just want to, stop in and converse with some locals or whatnot. I would guess most people would be friendly about that. I don't think most people would be scornful because you're stopping by to have a drink. And I mean, am I wrong with that? I mean, let me know in the comments, guys.
we can throw in brewery taps. A brewery
Brewery
tap
tap.
is a pub that's attached to a brewery. They brew a beer on site and they sell it there. And these pubs tend to look a bit more industrial and are more used as a marketing tool for
Modern, maybe.
But for now, let's get a feel of what it's like to step foot into a traditional pub. Here we go. Alright, so picture this. It's a Wednesday, you finish work, it was a bit stressful, and so what do? You of course venture down to the pub. Which pub will it be today? Will it be the famous Cock, the Red Lion, the horse's mouth? And so you approach the front door of the pub and you push open the door
London
to
pub.
be greeted by another door for some reason. There's always these two doors. Instantly you hear Mickey and the boys sat in their usual spot, shouting about some political thing that they read in the Sun. Listen here boys, you know what I'd do if I was in charge, if I was Prime Minister? Yeah, what's that there, Mickey? I'd get the whole lot of them, take them outside and I'd shoot them. Yeah, that's about right, Mickey. In the corner of Mickey's eye, he sees you as you walk in. The whole table's attention turns. Here comes trouble. You exchange niceties for a couple of seconds and then Mickey, he'll escort you to the bar to go get a drink. These particular gentlemen are who you would refer to as the geezers.
Yeah,
The geezers.
I might try to wind anyone up. I'm fucking serious.
These are working class lads. They could be anywhere from the age of like 25 to 55 really. Might be a plumber, a spitter, you know, proper man's jobs. They're not going to be in the HR department working in diversity and inclusion. Now what's very interesting about the geezer is that the geezer exists within all British men. No matter how middle class you are, whether you shop at M&S or Waitrose, the infectious charisma and energy of the geezer will undoubtedly rub off on you at some point in the night.
Who's that? Well, this is... what's your name?
Steve.
Steve. He'll be joining us. Why?
Usually
Steve!
around sort of beer 6, maybe 7. You'll leave your table, you head to the toilet, you might wobble there because you're getting a little bit intoxicated. And as you go for a piss, The door will bang wide open, Mickey walks right in, stands next to you, and he turns to you and he says, "You watched the game last night, mate?" To which you'll panic because last night you're at yoga and you need to now come up with a cover story. And so you will reply, "Nah, not me, mate. Mrs. was having none of it. You know how it is, mate." But this brings us on to our next pub goer, Middle Class Michael.
What a nice pub. Yes, it's a
Middle
lovely
class Michael.
Now, Middle Class Michael, he probably works in IT or marketing or something like that, an office job. He's come from work, so he's wearing his nice smart shirt, but he's undone a button, he's letting loose. He'll be somewhere in his late 20s to 30s. He probably lives in central London or some kind of city. But Michael, too, is welcome into the pub. In fact, all of his friends are welcome to come in and speak at an appropriate volume. Until about his 5th Copperberg, where he starts to find this feeling, this foreign feeling, which is called self-confidence. And he'll start speaking louder and louder until they're throwing up in the toilet. Next up, you have the old boys, aka the locals. These are men from the age of 60 to about really any day prior to their death. They're drinking.
The locals, that's an interesting thing to call the people that are a little bit older. I would think anybody who's there, the geezers, the middle class Michaels, they're all working in the general area, so they're all really locals, right? But I guess the difference is the older people, they've been in the area much longer. They're the wise older guys sitting on the corner having a conversation with each other, probably a little bit more quietly, I'm guessing.
Drinking proper drinks, they're drinking stout, Guinness. They all, of course, dress like farmers. They love Jeremy Clarkson. They hate young people. These are the main demographic of any good country pub.
And we're here in Killarney because we've been invited by a very special character. I hear he's a local legend. Sam, how are you? Good, my dear.
But then you get a few little special guests, such as tourists, who are typically American. They're wearing some bright t-shirt, they've got a bum bag to keep all their things in. And they're saying something about how authentic this place is. It's so quaint. It's so British. And then you get families. Oh, I forgot to say you have the alcoholic who's sat in a corner murmuring to himself. Pretty sad sight. But then finally you have one other group that will sometimes show their face in a pub. And that is women.
So much fun.
Now what's interesting about the pub is that pre-World War II, to see a woman in a pub was a very rare sight. It was frowned upon. It was a cultural taboo.
Do you object to me being served alongside you here, sir?
I think for myself that the place for women is the saloon bar or the lounge.
Why?
So basically, it was a boys' place. It was a place for the men to kind of not only escape work and all their troubles and everything like that, but back then it was probably also a place that they could kind of get away from the wives and things like that and just be with the boys and stuff like that. So I'm guessing that's what that was at that point. And it probably still is to a certain extent, obviously. I mean, that's why a lot of men, go out to bars here in the US and whatnot to, have a break from, their wives and, the day-to-day stuff. But I'm guessing it is different nowadays, though. Quite a bit different.
Kind of like that so that husbands and wives could be away from each other.
Yeah.
Men could do men things.
That makes sense.
Say naughty words. But nowadays you get what is called a ladies' night. Now this is the one night that ladies have decided they're going to go to the pub. They've spent 3 months over WhatsApp, organising, arguing, falling out over this night. It's a big night for them. It could be a hen do, a birthday. And they will arrive at the pub dressed in their skin-tight dresses, drinking gin and tonic, holding their purse. They're loud, they're passionate, they're dramatic. You'll have one in the corner crying her eyes out. She's staring at her phone, texting away furiously. Another being kicked out by the bouncers as she vomits over herself. It's quite a sight to see, an image that I'm sure the suffragettes never imagined would happen. Progress. And so what I'm hoping that you understand is that the pub is really a place for everyone.
You with all your mates and you're all having a laugh and you're all doing everything. It seems to be like the catalyst to make a good time.
However, over the years, things have changed a lot.
Now, I'm worried about the closure of pubs.
More than 150 pubs have closed their doors for good in England or Wales.
They face a cost of living crisis head on.
Now look, it's never been easy for pubs when it comes to laws. It's been like this tug of war between the government and pubs for a very long time. And that is for the simple fact that alcohol is a bit troublesome.
Yeah.
In 1552, the Ale House Act was passed, where pubs would be required a license from a local authority in order to be able to sell beer. In 1830, the Beer House Act came along. New laws would pop up, like a legal drinking age. Also, opening hours were pretty tight. But by 1960s, the laws were relaxed somewhat. So from here to about the 2000s, things were flourishing. Having a simple bevy with the boys had evolved. Now you could walk into a pub and there might be things like pool tables, dartboards.
And it's a 5-point round.
You go into any good pub and there will be locals who are insane at pool and darts. They'll come in with their own cases, their own sticks, their own table if they could. And if they get good enough, they can enter professional leagues. They can become professional athletes. I mean, take Phil Taylor, for instance, a professional darts player.
Yeah.
Look at him, he is your typical pub goer. But look, if darts and pool isn't what you're into, there's something for everyone. You might be more into board games, so you
I love pool, man. I'm really good at pool. It's just, I spent many of my hours of my youth in bars playing pool. I haven't been in a while, really, and I miss it. I miss it a lot.
You grab a board game in this box that looked like it survived World War II, or you could attend a quiz night.
The town of Leicester is the birthplace of which mass murderer?
Trivia night.
It would be in 2007 where things would take a massive turn, where pub culture as we knew it would be gone forever.
A countrywide smoking ban went into effect in the UK on Sunday.
The smoking ban. When smoking ciggies were banned from pubs, this was a major issue in Britain.
Make a place for the smokers and a place for the non-smokers that's segregated off. Not herders out here like bloody prostitutes standing on this corner, which is what you feel like when you're standing here with a cigarette.
I'm not joking, this was as big of a deal as Brexit, Trump, trans athletes. And this is where the government had proposed that we were no longer allowed to smoke cigarettes inside of a pub. And there was uproar from landlords to pub goers, where the classic atmosphere of a pub, you know, where you'd open the door and a plume full of smoke would come out like a dragon's lair, would now be replaced with breathable air. And we couldn't have that. And it's true, it was part of the atmosphere, but ultimately the ban passed and you had to go outside and smoke cigarettes. From this point on, traditional pub culture only really got worse and worse. With the rise of social media and home media, people didn't really need to leave the house to get entertainment. On top of this, the younger generation were, God forbid, drinking less. And there's been a constant decline in pubs throughout England since 2000.
Wow. Hold up. Wow. Hold on, let's see that again. Number of pubs in the United Kingdom for 2000 to 2020. Number of pubs in thousands. Okay. So about 61,000 pubs in the year 2000. Somehow dipped quite a bit and went back up in 2009, 2010. But now we're sitting at, wow. So it went from 61 to 47,000. So a 14,000 pub drop in a period of 20 years. So not quite. I mean, that's close to 25%. That's a big drop. I'm getting the picture of what he's saying, what he said at the beginning. I can see that, yeah, it does seem like the pubs are somewhat disappearing, but they're not going to completely go anywhere. You know, they definitely seem like over the course of the next few decades at this trajectory, there's definitely going to be less of them, but took 20 years to get to here. So even at that trajectory, I mean, you're talking, I mean, to get to another 25% is going to take, you know, a number of decades. So, yeah.
England since 2000.
Yes, boys, how you doing? Are you alright?
Yeah. On top of this, alcohol is easier and cheaper to get a hold of from supermarkets. We, as society,
wasn't that always the case, though? Well, at
least
least last few decades.
In a pub, you could go get a coffee, you could go for a meal. And so as pubs become less popular and the cost of living goes up, there has been a major decline in pub culture across Britain.
That's interesting.
But look, it's not all bad news. There is a light at the end of the tunnel, and that light is Wetherspoons.
Today I want to talk about one of the great British institutions, Wetherspoons.
Now, Wetherspoons isn't a traditional pub. It's kind of this pub-bar hybrid. It's like a super chain that exists all across Britain, where it takes our favourite elements of traditional pubs, the way they look, the way they feel, combine that with incredibly cheap beer and food, and it attracts a more wider demographic of young people and older people. And I think at this point it's pretty safe to say that Wetherspoons, or spoons as we abbreviate it to, has kind of become a British institution in and of itself. It's the start of every good night out. It's the place we love to hate, but inside we all have a soft spot for it. It's still got all of the fights, all of the political debates.
It didn't look like it would have that type of stuff.
Literally did a Brexit tour around
Interesting.
spoons, and it's even got love. Personally, I think as a society, tradition is really important. It's what makes culture so unique.
Yeah,
and
very much so.
It makes people want to come and experience that.
Yes.
So next time you're at your local boozer, grab yourself a pint, take a sip, and look around for a second, and appreciate everything that's gone in to the Great British Pub. If you enjoyed this video...
All right, guys, this was a really, really good video. Thought he did a great job explaining the British pub. Basically, it is a place where everybody from every walk of life can come in and can kind of, you know, be on equal footing, so to speak. Everybody's going to be able to converse with others, whether they're low class or upper class. If you're in that pub, that's at least what I'm getting here. You're all coming in as one. And it's a great place for the community just to come together. And I'm still not really quite sure what the difference would be between a pub in the UK and a bar in the UK. Because if not all pubs serve food, then what is the difference between the bar and the pub? I don't know, man. Is a bar just usually louder? But I don't think so, because I could tell, you know, like you said, here at the pub, you know, people get lively, people get in debates, people start singing and dancing and all the stuff you would see in a traditional bar, at least in the US. Now, granted, actually, you're probably not going to have a ton of political debates in a bar in the US, because they're usually bars in the US have like, most times they're going to be having extremely loud music to the point to where you're not even going to be able to hear someone to talk to them beside you. So that in most cases, some, not all bars, but a lot of bars. You know, my dad actually owned a bar when I was growing up. And now that I look at what it was, it kind of reminds me of a pub a little bit. It had that, a lot of what I was seeing in the pubs here. You had that, obviously we were in a smaller community, not I think back then probably like a town of maybe 7,000 people or so. So definitely not large by any stretch of the imagination, but not tiny like a little village either. But you know, you had so many regulars come in there, and we didn't live in a tourist trap or anything like that. So most people weren't tourists there. And so everybody got to know everybody else. And we served some really good, what you would probably call pub grub. And, you know, burgers and chicken fingers and, you know, fish, fried fish and stuff like that. French fries, onion rings, you know, that type of stuff. And we had really great local beers on tap, you know, craft beers. You know, back then I worked there. I worked there from the time I was, how old was I? Was I like 11 years old till I was somewhere in my teens when he closed it down. Yeah, it was a great experience. You know, I was bar back when I was like 11, 12 years old, you know, refilling the ice and bringing the beer, working in the kitchen, you know, doing dishes, you know, all that sort of thing. It was a really, really great experience, and it was a good time. I miss it. But like I said, I still don't exactly know what the difference between a bar and a pub is, but I kind of have bits and pieces in my head what I think make a pub. But please, in the comments, explain to me what you feel like personally is the difference between a bar and a pub in the UK or Ireland, because I feel like both in the UK and Ireland, pubs and bars are probably kind of similar. There might be some differences, but I think for the most part, they're similar with each other compared to what you'll find in the US. But anyways, guys, thank you so much for stopping by. Please click that like button. Feel free to drop your comments or suggestions about this video or others. And don't forget to subscribe to continue to follow me on my journey to discover my British and Irish ancestry. Until next time, guys, peace.